Markelle Fultz was the number 1 overall pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, going just before players like Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, and Lonzo Ball. He was expected to be a perennial all-star at the guard spot, and the last piece to the 76ers process that Sam Hinkie started. He was compared to players like James Harden and Dwayne Wade in the pre-draft process, both of whom are top 5 shooting guards of all time. The expectations were high in Philly, yet things went downhill quickly. He suffered a mysterious shoulder injury and then seemingly forgot how to shoot. He was lauded as an elite shooter and shot creator coming in, and all of a sudden it was gone. He tried to remake his form multiple times, but fell victim to the yips, which is when an experienced athlete has a sudden and unexplained loss of ability to execute certain skills. He would only end up playing 33 games in 2 seasons for the Sixers. He was declared a bust by sports media and one of the worst of all time, being traded to the Orlando Magic after being selected first overall only a season and a half prior. He's had some injury struggles in Orlando that I'll get into later, but he's become one of the league's best guard defenders and the point guard going forward for the Magic. He's no longer some massive bust. Markelle Fultz has saved his career with the Orlando Magic. To truly understand what a turnaround we've seen from Fultz, let's look at his career as a whole. Before we get into the play of Markelle Fultz, if you enjoy my content and have watched a few videos of mine, think about subscribing. 96% of my viewers are actually not subscribed, so if you watched me before and enjoy the content, drop a sub and comment down below. It really helps the channel. Let's start with Fultz' rookie season. The struggles with Fultz came right from the get-go. He played in the first 4 games of the season for the Sixers, where he averaged a measly 6 points per game, while shooting 9 of 27 from the field. He was then mysteriously shut down with a sore right shoulder. Most people thought this might be a week or 2 injury, but Fultz wouldn't play again until March 26th, over 5 months after he was last on the court. It was weirdly covered up by the Sixers, but news started to get around that Fultz had supposedly forgotten how to shoot. A headline like this is one you don't see often, especially from a prospect as highly seen as Fultz coming in. It got coverage all over ESPN, Fox Sports, and really any daily show that covered sports. Clips of him shooting free throws went viral as he had an obvious hitch in his release. When he returned to play the last 10 games of the season, it didn't get much better. He was still obviously struggling out there. Although there was one bright spot, as in the last game of his rookie season, he became the first teenager to ever record a triple-double in an NBA game, with 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. It was a very rough start to Fultz's career, but fans still hoped he could bounce back. He somewhat did that. He started in 15 of his 19 games played for the Sixers in year 2, and raised his field goal percentage from 40% to 42%. However, he suffered a setback with his shoulder, as well as an announced wrist injury. With the injuries, as well as the clear lack of confidence on the court, the 76ers had seen enough. They dealt him at the 2019 trade deadline in exchange for role player Jonathan Simmons, a late first-rounder, and a second-round pick. His time in Philly was over after only a season and a half, and many had given up hope on him. Despite all of this, the Magic saw a buy low opportunity with Fultz and decided that they saw enough in him to give him a shot. He started to prove them right in only his first season with the team. He averaged 12 points, 5 assists, and a steal per game with the Magic in year 1, raising his field goal percentage to 47%. He started in 60 out of the Magic's 72 games and looked like he could be the starting point guard going forward. However, misfortune again struck Fultz, as he would only play in 26 games the next 2 seasons combined, thanks to a torn ACL and recovery. That brings us to this season. There was a somewhat large amount of pressure mounting on Fultz heading into this year. Sure, he looked promising in his first year with the Magic, but that was over 2 seasons ago and before a torn ACL. Could the Magic really expect him to be the same player? You're only afforded so many chances in this league, and Fultz had already used up a few of them. The team also drafted point guard Jalen Suggs the year prior, and it looked as if they may want to replace him. Yet he's proving all the doubters wrong this year. He's averaged 13 points per game, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals. It's also easily his most efficient season yet. He's shooting 50% from the field and 32% from 3, which isn't great, but it's showing that he's trying to get his shot back that was once so valued. He's developed into a really solid NBA player, and despite some chatter about the Magic having a 3-guard rotation and Fultz, Cole Anthony, and Suggs, Fultz has started in all 43 of his games so far. He's been great, and honestly is good enough to be the team's starting point guard moving forward. Let's take a look at last night's game, just for example. He put up 15 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals. He made 5 out of his 9 shots. They're not star-level numbers, but this is a pretty typical night for Fultz this season. He doesn't take a lot of shots, but has been efficient when he does. He's a much better passer than given credit for, and than people expected when he was being drafted. He was viewed as a shooting guard because he supposedly couldn't pass well enough, but he's evolved into a good NBA point guard. He creates havoc in passing lanes due to his instincts and superb athleticism, and racks up steals every night. He's also a threat to dunk on anyone's head, and is ridiculously athletic, even after an ACL tear. Since arriving in Orlando, the Magic's defensive rating has been 3 points better when Markelle is on the floor, showing he makes a significant defensive impact. Many were quick to label Markelle Fultz as one of the biggest draft busts of all time. He had one of the most publicized cases of the yips in pro sports history, and was traded within 1.5 seasons of being selected first overall. But the 76ers gave up on him too soon. They sold low and counted their losses. However, Fultz has saved his career with the Orlando Magic. He's become an elite defensive guard, become a good enough passer to be a full-time point guard, and has been extremely efficient this season, shooting over 50% from the field. Despite being selected first overall, he still has managed to become one of the league's most underrated players, and at only 24 years old, looks like the franchise point guard for the Magic going forward. His turnaround has been unbelievable, and if he can stay healthy, we could see him come close to the star he was expected to be.